City of Stevens Point Redevelopment Authority meeting, recorded December 2nd, 2025.
3 p.m. I will call the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Stevens Point to order. Director will take a roll.
Yeah, of course. And I'm just going to give 1 second for a few members to sit. Just got lost there. Perfect. Chairperson Schleiss.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Gardner.
Here.
Alderperson Nebo.
Here.
Commissioner Cooper.
Here.
Commissioner Kemmeter.
Here.
Commissioner Laddick.
Here.
Commissioner Barrett.
Here.
Fantastic.
We have a full house. Good. Before we get going, the chairman can always take a few liberties prior to the meeting, and it's really not on the agenda, but I would like to announce that Dave Cooper is retiring at the end of December, at the end of his term. Dave has been with us for a while. He was appointed to the CDA in 2008, and he's the original member of the RDA since 2013. So 17 years of community service, Dave. We hate to see you get into retirement, but we do know that happens with most of us.
That's a false word, retirement. But that's
Thank you, Dave, for all your service.
Thank you.
Alrighty, number 2, persons wish to address the board on specific agenda item other than a public hearing must register the request at this time. Those who wish to address the board during the public hearing are not required to identify themselves until the public hearing is declared open by the chairperson. We do have one public hearing, and what will happen on that is we'll have a few remarks from the director. We've got the developer online, and then at some point right after that, I will open the public hearing, and we'll go from there. Do we have anybody pre-registered or anything other than the public hearing?
Not for the public hearing with Andrea Olson online that would like to speak on item 2, the public hearing, and on item 3 was mentioned as it relates to the public hearing.
Okay, it's, number 3 down.
Yep.
Second section.
Second
Okay.
section, sorry.
All righty. Number 1, approval of the minutes from July 31st, 2025 and October 14th, 2025 meetings of the Redevelopment Authority. Gene?
I move that we approve the minutes from July 31st, 2025 and October 14th, 2025 meetings for the Redevelopment Authority and place them on file.
Second.
Second by Dave. Questions, comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, presentation and public hearing on proposal from Commonwealth Development Corporation for the redevelopment of a portion of the former Shopko sites parcels ending with 2950, 2969, 2804, and 2814. Director.
Yeah, so staff will start off by giving a brief presentation. We do have the developer online that we'll kick it to just to allow any other comments as part of that presentation, and obviously toss it back to you for that public hearing. We did have a council meeting, common council meeting just before this at noon. Did conclude shortly before our meeting started, but that council meeting was put into place before the RDA to discuss finances of the project. So council is discussing finances, RDA is discussing more of just the project as a whole, the actual elements of the project, not the finances per se. So the options of pathways of which way we could go financially kind of set what was recommended to you all now. I will say the council did approve what we're going to present to you, the financial package for it. So that financial package is on the table. We're now just looking at, again, the project itself. So there is a proposed development agreement, which you do have before you. I did shoot you an email, and I apologize for the lateness of that. We obviously had to wait for council before we could give you what was going to be decided here. But a development agreement between the City of Stevens Point, the Redevelopment Authority, and Commonwealth Development Corporation. This is for a 50-resident LIHTC affordable housing project. That would be reserved for 30, 50, and 80% individuals with area median income. It would also include a 6,000 square foot child care facility. If you do remember, I guess, childcare facility with the University Child Learning and Care Center, UCLCC. If you do remember, proposal was brought forward to the RDA, and the RDA did have the opportunity to speak on it. There was a request to bump up the childcare space that was being provided to meet their needs. It was 3,000, now it's 6,000, which does accommodate what they would need. The other element that was being able to be accommodated was the parking, which we did hear overwhelmingly a concern for parking. This development would be providing a first floor parking as well as surface parking for a total of 76 spots. Again, 50-unit apartment complex, the 76 spots, 32 of them would be first floor, 44 of them would be surface parking. And there is a depiction of that in your packet here. So I will say we are continuing to evaluate some parking efficiencies to see if we can grab a few more spots. We have heard the overwhelming support of the need for more parking and to ensure that what's being provided on the site can accommodate what the site needs. So we are doing our darndest to get that, the numbers up there wherever we can, just looking at green space, things like that. I guess to conclude, in terms of location, this was another big change from when we first proposed this, or brought forward the proposal to you. The location of this development has changed slightly. And I can bring up a visual here, and, oh, I'm sorry, Dean, you were in the waiting room. Apologize about that, Dean. Got you in here now. I will share my screen to show you a little bit just of where the proposal is now going to share. All right. So when we are looking at this development here, or this concept plan here, originally the proposal was to put it down, or to put this building here down in by C, building C here. I don't know if you can see me circling it. I guess maybe I can draw. Maybe not. But building C here, and that is on the corner of Church and Main. Again, listening to public comment, we felt as though moving that would be more appropriate, trying to reserve that Main Street for more commercial retail. Daycare is commercial in theory, but hearing more of retail, restaurants, things like that, service-oriented businesses. So the new proposal is actually putting it up here in the northwest corner at building AB on just a portion of that site. So that is the other element that had changed as a part of this. Get that out of here. So it is no longer on Main Street. It is actually kind of sandwiched between Center Point, Strong's, and College Avenue that runs through the middle of the Shopko site. So I can clarify that too with another map if you guys need another visual or anything like that. But this development is being proposed to take up approximately 1.3 acres out of the 7 acres that is present for redevelopment. If approved, construction would start no later than September 1, 2027 and finish no later than January 1, 2029. And to that, happy to ask any questions when we get to that point, but I think that's enough information to kick it back to you. Unless the developer has
From the
anything.
developer?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
What is happening? Yes, we can.
Perfect. Jared, well, appreciate you touching on kind of a lot of the high points. RDA members, it's good to see you again. It's certainly been a little bit since we've last met. and there's been a lot of moving pieces here in the background. And so, while Jared had kind of spoken on a lot of those, really just wanted to be able to highlight those for you, just as we feel that, Commonwealth as a team has done our best to address a lot of the concerns that were raised. Starting with the parking, the original development called for 30 stalls. That has since been increased to 76, over doubled. Another one of the requests from the RDA members was to increase the space for the daycare facility for the university. That has also been doubled. The other one of the requests that we had received from this body was to add an outdoor play area for the child care facility. That has been added. So, ultimately at the end of the day, we feel that this development that's being put forward certainly addresses a lot of the concerns that you guys had, and remain hopeful that you're pleased with these changes and is something that you can ultimately support.
All righty, before I open the public hearing, just to remind everybody that the RDA does not deal with the finances of this particular project. That's the Common Council. I know that when the city goes out and buys property for $1 million and sells it for $1, that's kind of counterproductive from a business standpoint, but I've swallowed hard for the 45 years I've been involved with the city development. But if we don't do it, we don't get any development, because that's the way everybody is across no matter where you're going for. With that being said, if you could have your comments more addressing this particular project and what you'd like to see on the Shopko lot. This is our public hearing for this, and the RDA is responsible for the development on the Shopko lot. We control that particular part, so if you could keep your comments to that, I would appreciate it. And with that, I will open up the public hearing. What we would like you to do, if you wish to speak, please come up to the mic, give us your name and address, and if you can keep it, to 3 to 5 minutes, would be great, but whatever.
Jenny Burton, 5718 Sandpiper Drive. I've attended all of the public meetings. I'm very appreciative of the input that you've gathered from the public and the way you've worked with the developers and with the downtown people. I think you've come up with a fantastic compromise. So in my opinion, it's win-win-win. So thank you very much for putting this together.
Thank you, Jenny.
Keith Pilger, 733 Ridge Road, also on behalf of Anderson O'Brien, 1257 Main Street. My concerns with this particular development is I do appreciate the fact that the parking has been addressed, but you're still talking about 50 units, half of which are 2- and 3-bedroom units. You're going to have well over 100 people, probably 150 people in that building. That the concept that they're only going to need 75 cars, spaces, is it just doesn't make any sense. So this will impact the Shopko lot significantly as far as parking. But beyond this particular development, Jared, could you pull up the master plan again?
Yeah, of course.
What I would really love to see this group do is, this is the master plan that the city staff wants implemented with regard to the Shopko property. It does not address parking at all for existing downtown businesses. The only parking spaces there, you lost it.
Yep, sorry, I was just going to make sure the people online can see.
The only parking spaces there are dedicated to these particular developments. So unless this group requires them to change that plan and do some dedicated parking for existing businesses, existing taxpayers that aren't looking for a handout, they're not going to do it. So it's not just this development, it's the 2 or 3 developments that come after it that will continue to gobble this up. So unless mixed use is code for parking, there's no parking. So I just ask that, not just this development, but this group as a whole, require staff to come back to you with a plan to address parking for existing businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Gerald Farner, 12315 Acadia Lane, Lac du Flambeau. I'm the owner of the Executive Place building. Parking. When we went to the city and bought 5 parcels of land before we could get a building permit, we were given access to city parking, except for the 60 stalls where Shopko was, okay? And we need it, and we expect that either this board or the city keeps it that way. When I look at that master plan, there is no parking. Parking's been an issue for a long time. I've been going back 20 years worth of meeting minutes. There was even a parking ramp on the table for $4.3 million in 2009. So you need to, you have an agreement with me, and I expect it to be kept. I think you need to really take your time on this. That grant will be available next year. You need to come up with a plan for that whole area, not just the 18% of what's there. It's just not my business. It's many businesses that use that parking at different times of the day. I question the daycare. I think it's great to have a daycare. I'm wondering why you wouldn't want to use the Dunham's building for that when we already have a building that's not being used. So I think there's some other options to save some money. I also, when I did the math on the 50 units, it seemed like it was upfront loaded. I think I came up with $356,000 per unit. That seems a little high. So again, you really need to take your time and put this project on hold. Show us what the parking's going to be like on the rest of that area. And I think we're going in the right direction of where we were 2 weeks ago, but we have a long way to go to know that we're not going to be in this problem 2 years from now when somebody else wants some free money or free land. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald.
Hello, my name is Deb Knipple, and I'm representing Frame Memorial Presbyterian Church at 1300 Main, and myself as a citizen, 611 Sumery Avenue. And I'm just sharing the same words that I shared at the Common Council meeting, but many of you maybe weren't there. So I'm just here to express support for the inclusion of the mixed income apartments in this development. Housing is a fundamental human need and a key step to eradicating systemic poverty. And I also support the inclusion of a daycare center, as safe and reliable childcare is critical for maintaining stable employment for families and children. So based on the Housing Affordability Report of year 2025, which I just got a couple nights ago at another meeting I was at, families that pay more than 30% of their monthly income for housing are considered housing cost burdened. And based on the data that was in that report from the U.S. Census, 43% of renter-occupied housing units in Stevens Point pay over 30% of their household income towards rent. Now, I have been informed that that might not be 100% accurate, and I accept that criticism. And so it's just to give you an idea that many people are paying, or some people are paying more than the 30% of their income. And I wasn't able to find any statistics on unhoused individuals and families in Stevens Point who are struggling to find adequate housing, but we know this is a reality. So the mixed income housing helps to reduce poverty and improves living conditions for individuals and families. So I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else?
You have Andrea also.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hold on, Andrea, we'll have you go next. Just as an FYI, we have
Okay.
one
After
more.
him or right now?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we have one more individual in person, and then we'll jump
Okay.
to you. Sorry.
All right. Bob Butt, 1434 Plover Heights, also owner of 944 Main Street. I've gone downtown and to other businesses, put a list together, some of you may have seen it, of all the negative things that will have an effect on the downtown with this project, okay? It's a great project, it's just in the wrong spot. The downtown is a central business district for businesses. That's what central business districts are. They're not for residential areas. And this is basically a giant residential project, and all the things behind the scene just don't make sense. The financing, the cost of it, the parking, and ultimately the location. Okay, this should be used for businesses, not for housing. In my opinion, it's a giant virtue signal of the city saying, look we're creating low-income housing downtown. Well, there's no reason to put it downtown. There's tons of other places throughout the community where this could go. Tons of other places. And this is the wrong spot for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what we got coming up?
Andrea, if you would like to go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay. Andrea Olson, 410 Franklin Street. I have concerns about this proposal because one of the things is that I don't know if anybody else did, I took like the downtown plan that was approved, I cut out the little buildings and everything there, and then I overlaid them over this new plan. I had to make some bigger because, of course, the transit center and those was a lot smaller. However, we're pretty much making it where this might be nearly we might only get one more 10,000 square foot mixed use building on this lot. I took the transit center and we don't even have enough space for the transit center to even have its driveway like it used to have. Look at the placement of the driveways in this new plan too. You're either going to have the one additional building in the future, get rid of the park, and then you could have possibly two. But based on how the streets are changing with that little curve and where the driveways are, we're putting ourselves in a corner where we might not be able to get very much out of the rest of that lot. And I would have really expected that staff would have created a new plan for this so that you guys and the citizens could see if this development is approved, how this might look in the future for additional opportunities. Also, with any additional sorry, I have a golden retriever. Porter, stop it. Not giving him attention. Also for these additional, if we do have any additional developments on this property, how is their parking going to look? Because underground parking really isn't an option, so that means that it's going to be surface parking or it's going to be first floor parking. If you have first floor parking, then you're not going to have really any commercial use of this property, so then everything's going to end up being residential there if you don't have parking. So also with UCLCC, I went there when I was younger. My mom worked for the university. The daycare only allows students or UWSP affiliated individuals to be part of that. And since you can't discriminate based on being a student or not, all this housing has the potential to also become student housing, and then the students are getting to benefit from UCLCC being there. So then that means that this really isn't benefiting the general population outside of the university. So unless UCLCC is going to start allowing the community in general to be able to utilize their daycare and their services, we're completely subsidizing something that's not helping the general population for the most part. My biggest concern is any types of future developments that we could do on this lot. And I would have really liked to have seen how this might look for the options for anything in the future, because I would expect a long-term plan before making a really quick, short-term decision.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. You also were requested to speak on item number 3. As long as I got you on the line, if you want to make your comments now, because I forgot to bring you up on the first item 3. I apologize. Do you have any additional comments for item number 3, which is the development agreement?
I think that we are just switching money from one TIF to another, and why aren't we putting this development in a TIF that is not downtown, where similar opportunities could be offered? Like, we could be converting 1039 Ellis Street with KCG developers instead that could convert that over and offer a daycare and over 50 units in that building. So we're giving a lot more money than we might actually need to give for a similar development, just in a different location.
All righty, thank you. Any other comments for the public hearing?
I'm Troy Notsky, live at 217 Hummel, own 912 Main Street, been business owner downtown for 31 years, operating. Again, I am not against this project other than the location. It doesn't need to be downtown. It needs to be someplace, as Bob has mentioned, this is a central business district. This is a business community. We need to keep the downtown vibrant and successful. Yes, housing is part of the original structures that are in downtown. Our first floor is mainly business, with the second-story buildings of the old downtown being residents that got put in secondary. My building was built in 1890 as Ostrowski's Saloon, and his living quarters are upstairs. So I'm not against the residents in downtown, just this particular project with the subsidized housing money and the substantial outlay from the city, the $1.45 million for this project is just ludicrous. Why we'd pay that to install this in our downtown, which is not part of the business district. The daycare center that we keep hearing about was brought up in the first meeting this morning, the city council meeting. I think Jenny Resch has something to do with the facility at the university. I'm not sure, but it brought up, there is no agreement with them to be in this property. We keep talking like they're actually agreement, like they're going to be in there, like they're have paper on lease already proposed. There's nothing. So yes, it's commercial space on that first floor of that 6,000 square footage on Center Point Drive, but there's no guarantee it's going to be this child care center. We keep using the code word, the university child care center, but there's no agreements with that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, I think you're still in line. But there's no agreements with that. So that got brought up in the meeting this morning. So if you weren't privy to that information, I wanted to let you know that. There is no agreement with them. So great project. Definitely does not need to be in downtown. And parking is a major concern. The Great Lakes building sits empty. We own that. The city owns this. And nothing's being done with that space for many years. What's the Redevelopment Authority thinking about that project? What's the city thinking about that project? Parking structures happen in a lot of cities. I was in La Crosse about a month ago for a convention, and they have a beautiful structure right in their downtown over some existing buildings. So this plan is definitely should be postponed with a bigger understanding of what's going to happen for the future of the rest of the space and the rest of the lots. Because we are going to, like Olson said, we're going to landlock ourselves in, and then there's not much else to do with the space. And who wants to maybe build next to this property after it's up? Food for thought.
Thank you, Troy. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is closed. All right, moving right along, no action is needed on that particular agenda item. Number 3, discussion and possible action on a development agreement between the City of Stevens Point, the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Stevens Point, and Commonwealth Development Corporation for the redevelopment of a portion of Main Street, formerly the Shopko sites on the last 4, 2950, 2969, 2804 and 2814. There's a whole bunch of numbers over there, that's why I just used the last four. Director.
Yeah, I guess similar information to what was provided before the public hearing. I'm happy to touch on some of the points that were made, maybe just to give a little bit more perspective on some of them. So, a comment was made about other spaces in the downtown being an option, and maybe areas outside the downtown being an option. I would just like to note that there are certain requirements as a part of the affordable housing application that goes into the state, such that as a qualified census tract. We do have two of them in the city. So if it is not in that census tract or one of those two areas, it's going to be not competitive and it's not going to get awarded. So we are limited on that. So just a note. Some of the other spaces in the downtown, so the Great Lakes building was mentioned, Lot 8 was mentioned. You could mention Edgewater. You could mention the Cooper Motor Site, which I don't believe actually is it's on Division Street. That's not in a qualified census tract. You could mention Associated Bank. Some of those the city doesn't own, aka Associated Bank parking lots. Yes, there's a lot of land there. We don't own it. The Great Lakes building, we are in conversations with a potential tenant. So again, as we continue conversations with other individuals behind the scenes, we can't make those public as we're continuing to negotiate. So we know of those, we have them in mind, but not all of them are feasible locations. A note to the plan and about changing the plan, and this kind of goes into parking as well. Again, this is a plan. This is a guiding document to help move us forward, to help give us a visual of what we want to see, what we don't want to see. The plan's going to change over time. To many of the individuals' points that had made them, yes, we can look at changing the plan as things progress. We're trying to take one hurdle at a time. When you're running the race, if you try to take every hurdle, you're going to fall. So we're trying to get one project down, something started, and then, as it was mentioned at RDA, trying to take that gradual approach to doing a development, again, continuing to evaluate it and see what needs to change, make those changes, go for another one, and ensure that when we get it all built out, it is a quality build out, well thought through, et cetera. But the big picture plan, the guiding document is there. We make the small adjustments as we go on. The affordable, not affordable tax credits, I guess just other grants in general, specifically EPA grants through the state of Wisconsin that would assist us with cleanup. Are somewhat dependent on having a development. They do make us more competitive in those grant applications, in which we can receive $1 million plus potentially to assist us in cleaning up the sites as well as infrastructure. So there are other financial incentives riding on working towards a development here. In terms of the other areas on the site, staff is confident that there is space. We can check with the developer as well, but the drawing that they did put together, it is to scale. Again, it's close. It's not inches or centimeters by any means, but it's to scale for the purpose of showing what's left to develop on the site. Taking a look at other developments throughout the city and other communities, there are developments that would work on the other sites. Again, taking that gradual approach, we'll evaluate it, see what what makes sense parking-wise, what fits, how we do the parking, whether it is underground, first floor, et cetera, or change the plan to accommodate more surface parking. We will do that down the line. But staff is confident that the remaining portions of land can be developed with a quality development. So just a few comments there. Happy to take any questions, Chris or I, if you have them.
Any additional comments, Chris?
I guess just to also reiterate my thanks to everyone to provide input today and over the past couple of years within the downtown, and look forward to implementing or discussing some of the comments further that have been heard today regarding dedicated parking throughout the downtown and how we integrate that into a more robust plan. I know we've shown that we have the ability to go back and modify and adjust our plans and to have that conversation as a community. And we look forward to bringing forward some of those potential modifications in the near future. I just wanted to maybe share this as an anecdote and also to give some reference to the amount of additional developable space so you have a visual comparison. If you've been in the downtown recently, the amount of land that's still available in that north half of the site is comparable to what land is utilized for the Cobblestone Hotel. So there's still ample amount of space to accommodate a development that is noticeable and significant to the district on that space. Other than that, I have no further comment.
One question I see on the development agreement, it says the parties intend to form a partnership with UWSP. What if that doesn't come to fruition? What can happen or not happen with that particular area set aside for the daycare?
Yeah, and I can maybe let the developer speak to that. Tyler, if you'd like to take it, otherwise I can give a brief overview as well. But if the child care facility wouldn't go in, what would happen to that CSF space? Would it be filled with another CSF space or user? Would it be made into commercial?
Yeah, so the application, subject to this approval, the application that goes into the state on Friday, will feature the 6,000 square feet that's being reserved for a community service facility. Commonwealth has been in partnership with Jenny and the rest of the team at UW Stevens Point, and it's our full intention to come to an agreement with them to ensure that they are at this space. However, I can't speak for their respective processes, so they will have to route formal approval, through their respective boards and approvals when a true project is funded and is in place. Just kind of touching on the comment of why was a lease not in place? Well, we can't enter into a lease for a space that's not existent. So in the ideal scenario, we move forward with this approval today. We submit the application on Friday. We receive the WIDA grant early spring, and at that time, then formal negotiations would commence with Jenny and her team, and again, subject to various approvals on their end. So that's kind of why that's left open-ended, for the reason that the university can, is no longer in agreement with Commonwealth for the space. But I will say, based on the conversations we've had to date, I think everyone is aligned on, both respective parties' expectations of one another. And Jenny, feel free to correct me if I misspoke there at any point.
No, that's very accurate, Tyler, so thank you. Well represented. But yes, we can't enter an agreement with something that doesn't exist, so there's been no opportunity until all these approvals happen.
All righty, thank you. I will turn it over to the commissioners. John.
I'd like to hear Commonwealth's response to the comment that the price per unit being constructed is high.
Certainly, happy to chime in on that. I mean, one of the nuances that Commonwealth and all of the other developers that responded to the RFP are subject to are additional costs that are related to the low-income housing tax credit funded projects. One of the drivers is fees that are due to WIDA, the allocating entity. They do not allocate the credits for free. There's a cost to doing these deals. There's also costs related to universal design features. There's costs related to green requirements that most market rate developers don't have to conform to. So as a product of accepting the WIDA grants, there are other rules and stipulations and ultimately design criterias that we have to adhere to that ultimately result in a product that is more expensive than a market rate development.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments?
I have a quick question. How much does the reserved parking spaces, how much money does that generate? What does it cost to reserve a parking space downtown? How much per week or month?
You mean for North Side Yard, like what they're renting a lot 8?
Or for Anderson law firm, for the businesses, if they're renting, aren't they renting paying for parking spaces in the Shopko lot? A guaranteed space?
We do not, I guess to staff's knowledge, we did not have a formal agreement that would have anyone paying for parking spots.
Oh, so they just can
It was more so if they are there.
But aren't there some spots that are reserved?
Not in Shopko.
No.
Not in the show? Okay.
No.
Okay. So really, they're just getting free public parking. And there's a lot of free public parking downtown. It's just a matter of having to walk farther than one might want to walk, correct?
Yes.
Jerry, since the comments are that there is no agreements with anybody for reserving the spots down there, could you send a copy of that agreement, Jared, so that they can take a look at that? Because they haven't found anything, to my knowledge, that there were any agreements as far as using the Shopko parking lot.
They went through the minutes of the meetings. By the way, John, you were in some of those meetings.
I don't recall any reserving of it other than if the space is there.
How do you think we got a building permit? Come on.
John?
There's, on page 13, there's a reference to base value on the developer's agreement. Why is that in there? Why is there a, let's say, $708,000 of base value?
Yeah, so I guess, Chris, do you want,
Yeah, so the base value is included in that development agreement for clarity on what is the city's perspective of the opinion of value on the land that is being attributed to the project. Now, the value that's included in there takes into consideration the value of the Shopko building when it existed on that lot, distributed across all of the acreage of the Shopko building footprint and the parking lot. And you may recall Shopko went bankrupt shortly after the district was created. And so on the books within the district is the value of that Shopko building as it stood. So that's why you see a base value that's included in there that is just over $700,000, because it takes into consideration the value of the building distributed across the acreage of the project that's being proposed.
So that's included in the TIF calculation. So the revenue generated on your calculation includes that as a base value, and it's over and above that then. Is that what I'm looking at, Corey?
It depends on which performer you use.
I'm using the one that's in the business improvement district, the business agreement.
The development agreement.
Development agreement.
And within the development agreement is the proforma that does not incorporate the base value taxes, because we want to be very clear on what the impact of the proposal before you has to the district, regardless of what has happened from Shopko going bankrupt to now, because we want to make it a very clear statement of how this impacts the district moving forward.
So my question is, the revenues that are generated in the attached Exhibit F, showing the projected TIF revenues, does take into account the $708,000 base value, so that we in fact do collect the revenues that are shown here of $1.5 million over time.
Does Corey need the copy?
Yeah,
Good. Can you pass that down?
He's mine.
That works too.
Yeah, so we ran the performance a couple of different ways. One that included a calculation for the base value and what that would be, and one that did not include a calculation that included the base value. So this one that's included in the packet, or that's included in the development agreement, does not include any allowance for the base value. Does not include that. So basically it's taking it as if there was no existing base value there.
So what does that mean? What's the net effect of that?
Well, so the other performer that we ran based on that had the base value basically taken off of the revenue, it was a little bit over $900,000 as far as the deficit. So it's between the 696 and 900 and some thousand. So just depending on how you want to run the numbers and how you want to analyze it.
So you're telling us that if you include the base value, as it's shown in the developer's agreement, that the deficit will be close to $1 million, not the 696 shown in the attachment here.
It would be above 900,000, yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'd say this is wrong, then the attachment's wrong.
I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it, but I mean, I think...
But the developer agreement includes the number of 700 and whatever it is, $1,000 of base value. I would suggest that the Exhibit F should be changed.
Okay.
Well, unless somebody disagrees with me.
No. And we can definitely make that adjustment. That would just be swapping the Exhibit F that is currently in the development agreement with that one that does factor in the...
Does that change any of the directions or conclusions at the noon meeting today with the council?
No, noon meeting, the council was made aware of all financial possibilities, as that was their aspect to evaluate. So they were made aware of all of them, and they knew the range that it was in, depending on how you looked at that base value, and they still made that motion to approve the financial package.
So as I understand, the council action was to subsidize the project for $1.45 million. Is that correct? That includes in the $1 million here, plus an additional $450,000 for the parking. And that's what we're talking about. Is that correct?
A total incentive package of $1.45 million, that would be for, yes, the whole package.
All right, that was a question on there. Thank you.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I would add as well when you're looking at this is you can also look at it on a present value basis, and that's going to make that number look a little bit lower if you just look at it as present value without taking into account the future interest costs.
And I believe you've kept the tax rate the same.
Yes.
And if the tax rate goes up, then that also would make it look better, too.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's a conservative way of looking at it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for freezing the tax rate.
Yeah, that's what I would hope that a promise and not a hope.
Yeah. It's not intended to be a guarantee.
But yeah, present value plus the tax rate being frozen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't count any appreciation in the building either.
Correct. Yeah, I made no assumption for any appreciation.
Right. So those are conservative approaches, and I appreciate that. Another question, if I may. Who brings utilities to the site? Who pays for the streets that are going to surround it?
Yeah, so utilities would come off of Center Point, so the mains are already there.
Okay.
So developer would bring those in. Streets around it, it's kind of a shared cost between all of it. The whole Shopko redevelopment site, I mean, we're going to be funding the infrastructure projects as it relates to College, Strong's Union, remaking those connections, which we've kind of made a priority. And then we are trying to find ways, if we don't need to replace some of the utilities, some of them were just put in less than 15, 20 years ago, and they're going to last another utility, I guess, not the utility department, but they're going to last another 50 years. So why spend the money, when we don't need to? So staff is working the design of that conceptual plan to factor in trying to save on utility costs and unnecessary costs when we don't need to.
What's the anticipated construction schedule on that?
So right now, we're doing design in-house, which is saving us design fees as well. We are looking to have potentially a development agreement in place, apply for EPA grants, WEDC, idle sites grants, et cetera, to fund those projects. So we're going to kind of wait on hearing about those projects, and that'll determine if we would do majority of the projects all at once, or if we kind of do a piece here, if we develop something else, a piece here kind of deal. So still kind of up in the air on until we hear from those grants. But those grants would cover a significant portion of the cost to not only remediate the soils, but also, when you do the roads, you have to mess with the soils anyways, so it would cut down a lot of the costs in the infrastructure.
I'm assuming there's a presumption that these roads will be in place in 28 or 29 when this project's completed?
28, 29 would be the hope, that we would be able to complete the projects by then, or at least the portions abutting, this development to the north side. to ensure that there's access. I guess for purposes of construction, we won't need to do it next year by any means. They can access the site, they can do construction. Even after the building is up, they would still be able to access the site with what's there. So we have some options, and staff is continuing to evaluate those to make sure we're trying to be responsible.
Other comments, questions? What are your wishes?
I was just going to say a comment. The Redevelopment Authority has battled on each of the projects in recent years to make sure there is more parking. And it's kind of beyond our reach to, guarantee parking spaces, because we realize how short at times parking is in downtown. But unfortunately, we don't own all the land. So anyway, that's
Ready. Other comments, questions, Dave?
I have a question for Commonwealth. It appears that you're not writing a check for anything for your part of the project. Everything is based on loans and city money and low interest loans. I mean, do you actually have a vested interest where you'd actually be contributing capital to this project?
Yeah, so I mean, the feedback here is, the same that was shared as part of the initial presentation. So these deals are different than a market rate complex, where we're on the market rate side, they're relying on cash flow. These developments don't cash flow much, especially after you factor in all the repayment of the debt that you just alluded to, the TIF, et cetera. And so we defer part of the fee that we receive for doing the project. And then in addition to that, we are the end owner of the building. So if there's a year where there's a shortfall in cash flow or revenues in comparison to expenses, the onus is on us to put that in. Now, at the end of the day, there's a reason why the program works and that they're charging lower rents. But in order for us to run a feasible project, I mean, we can't rely on cash flow similar to that to a market rate complex. So that's why the structure, the capital stacks are uniquely different from a market rate complex.
Okay. The other question is, how long are you mandated to keep the project before you sell it to someone else?
So with the low-income housing tax credit award, it's a 30-year period, which is broken down into two 15-year sections. So at a minimum, 30 years.
Okay. So in 30 years, you can sell the project, you would retain the city money and the expensive land that we've all invested in. Is there a possibility that with us putting forth all this capital to make this project happen, that we could be an equity partner?
I mean, we just talked about an equity partner. I mean, there's no cash flow really here, so I guess I don't fully understand the question to be an equity partner.
So when you sell this in 30 years, you walk away with the $1.5 million plus the value of the land that we've had, which is over $3 million now when you add everything up. That goes in your wallet. So we're correct? I mean, you don't pay any money back to the city for what we've invested or for our lot.
Well, I think the city's investment comes with the development being within your community for 30 years at a minimum. In this instance where there's a sale, which I can't speak for our practices 30 years down the road, but in the event there's a sale, the asset would still be in your community.
Okay. Well, the other question we talk about parking is, on your parking proposal, there's a big green section in the middle. Is that necessary, or can that be eliminated where you have a clean parking lot? It'd be a lot easier for parking lot maintenance with snow plowing and things like that, and we would probably get a few extra cars in there.
And I know,
Yes.
I guess.
So I would say that's just part of it's a parking island. I guess I can't speak to city code, and maybe Jared or Chris can, but oftentimes spaces are required to be broken up. Additionally, areas like this help in the wintertime months for allocation of snow, just given the fact that majority of this space is being used, so therefore there's limited areas to push snow.
Okay.
And I guess I'll just add, so that is a comment that came up internally. We will work with our zoning administrator to understand if that parking island can maybe be made smaller. It can be reconfigured in any such way to still accommodate the green space requirements of our code, which we do need to follow as well, while also seeing if we can get an extra parking spot, 2, 3, 4.
Right. That would help.
Anything else. And I know just another mention to the RDA, not specifically relating to the development itself, but we did have some comments of additional parking options of how we could restructure maybe the streets a little bit. We are further evaluating those with our engineering department to see if we can get, again, a couple more spots here and there to ensure that we're maximizing parking wherever we can.
Okay, so I appreciate the work that Jared and Chris and the rest of the staff have put into this, trying to make something work in there, but sometimes I feel like we're maybe getting a little too desperate to grab a project. I would rather wait for the right project come along that cash flows and have an increase in our tax base that also increases our commercial activity in our downtown. So I have some reservations about this project, and I agree with a lot of other public here that say, great project, well needed, but wrong place. And that's kind of what my feeling is right now. I haven't saw anything really compelling to make me want to vote for this.
Other comments, questions?
Is there a requirement for stormwater management on this site?
There is a requirement for stormwater management. We have been working through that with our engineering team on the roads too. With any development you do, when you get into more of these urban projects, there's more of a mechanical treatment process rather than a big stormwater pond. Just the space isn't there for it. So that will be worked through down the design and engineering process.
Because I thought maybe that was a stormwater swale in the middle, like bioretention or filtration. So
that's right. That's right.
Thank you. It very well could be. Yeah, I mean that could be part of any stormwater practices. So just another element to take into effect, and more than likely it's going to be a lot of mechanical, as that's the easiest way to meet the DNR standards in tight spaces.
Another concern I have is that, we're not starting construction until September 2027. Occupancy on January 2029. That's just a long time out.
Yeah, and that's a no later date.
Yeah.
The intent is to be awarded and start in 2026.
Okay. Well, that would make me a lot more comfortable,
but yeah, we didn't want to have to bring back a revised development agreement, and we're just trying to be reasonable with the timelines, and some things are out of both our and the developer's control, i.e. the state.
I seem to recall North Side Yard took longer than they thought, right? Because we ran into something called COVID.
Other questions, comments? Mary?
I like this project. I think the statistics lately are something like people are about 40 years old before they can afford to buy their first home because housing is so unaffordable. Folks on the margins often have to live in whatever they can find and often pay way more than they can afford to pay for housing. These are folks that are working poor, some working 2 jobs, and a lot of them don't have 2 or 3 cars in their family because they don't have that kind of money. They're not looking for a handout. They're looking for a hand up. If folks can get into housing they can afford, they can put money aside, they can spend a little money downtown, they can take their kids someplace, they might go to a restaurant once a week instead of maybe never. Businesses need workers. If workers can't find a place to live, they will not come to the community, businesses won't come in, there won't be development, and we will stagnate as a community, and we can't afford to do that. I think this project covers a lot of boxes. It provides safe, affordable housing near a transit center. I mean, you just have to walk a few 100 feet and they can pick up city transportation. Somewhere out on the east side where I live, you got to go all the way downtown to transfer, and then you get another hour to where you're going to work. So if you have to ride a bus and you have to catch it from one of the extremes, it's going to be a 2-hour bus ride because of the coming in and then transferring, going back out. So I looked into that when I first moved back here, and it would have taken me 2 hours to ride a bus to work, and I drive 10 minutes. So folks can be able to get a bus directly to their workplace from their home. If they can put their children in the child care facility, it's right there. I'm sure there are some mothers that work downtown that might be appreciative of having a daycare center downtown. They could run over for lunch and have lunch with their kids. Be a great opportunity. I think daycares, there can never be enough. And again, that's something that's very difficult for working poor people to afford. Oftentimes, the cost of childcare will take up a second person's income. So they have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay rent and pay childcare and try to function. So if the city can help a little bit, I'm willing to see my taxes go up to support something like this. It's a value to me to provide adequate, safe, affordable housing to people. And you know, if parking is such a big deal, I think maybe we should start charging people then for the opportunity to park. I think the going rate's about $25 a day in most larger cities. So, you know, if somebody wants to rent a parking space, I think $125 a week is a pretty fair price. But, you know, then the Redevelopment Authority, you know, might have some money to put into housing programs. Let's just make the whole thing a paid surface lot, charge everybody $125 a week for a space. We can rake in all kinds of dough. But that's not where my value lies. I'd rather walk 2 blocks and park someplace inconvenient to allow somebody to get out of homelessness into a house, into a place they could afford, and maybe start to bank some money ahead to send their kids to camp, to go out for dinner, to take a vacation, to buy a house down the line. To me, in my mind, I have to support this. I can't see any other way around it in my mind.
Other comments, questions?
You know, I realize there's some nuances to the financials with the nature of the project, but I don't have to like that, and I don't like it at all. So that's a huge sticking point for me. I think there's other issues. I think this proposal is better than what we received before. I think it's certainly trending in the right direction, but I really appreciate the input from the downtown business people. I know the staff works hard on this stuff, but I don't think we're there. I think it was said before the tax credits will be there next year. I don't support this right now.
Other comments, John?
Mr. Kivler, could you put up the site plan that shows the remaining parcel that's left after this development?
This one?
The one that shows this proposal. Bring up this proposal. There you go. As you know, I've had several concerns about whether this is the right spot for this good project. I appreciate the compromises that have been made. And I've heard that maybe there's some more compromises that can be made. One of the concerns I've got is the parcel that the RDA will own that's left over after this development's approved. I'm concerned that it's supposedly 2/3 of an acre. If you put parking on there with new development, I'm concerned there's not going to be much room for a reasonable sized development there. You compare it to, it was compared earlier to the hotel that's just around the way. Well, they don't have any parking on their site. They just have the building on the site. And so there's going to have to be more than just a building there. There's going to have to be building and parking. one of the thoughts I had was, instead of putting parking on the first floor of the building, to put that as surface parking, keep the building 3 stories instead of 4. You avoid some of the extra expense there. If it's possible to make this project larger, consume the whole site between Church Street and Strong's, rather than just partial. Because I think what's being left is going to be difficult for us to sell to somebody for any reasonable size value. So I don't know if this project can be made larger and save money by not putting parking on the first floor. And when I'm talking about parking, the city is contributing a significant amount of money to get that parking on the first floor. In essence, we're buying parking. We're paying them to build their parking lot. Why not pay ourselves to build a public parking lot and not put it on the first floor? Or why don't we take some of that surface parking? Since we're buying it, why don't we take some of that surface parking? I think there's some negotiations that are possible there because of the money that we're contributing, that some of that could be public parking, or develop the rest of that site there. I'm concerned about what's left, the leftover. Not so much the project, but the leftover. And the other thing that was brought up earlier, and I also shared this, is the plan between, well, I think what we're struggling with here is we're seeing that the plan that was created, that's adopted, does not have enough parking for the planned projects, for the development that's proposed. What we're seeing here is we're struggling with balancing the parking of the space the parking takes up with the proposed new construction. I think you're going to see the same problem south of College, between College and Main Street. So I'd like staff to work that area over, to address some of the comments that were made from Main Street property owners, to work that plan over as a second effort after this, so that we don't run into the same problems of pushing and pulling, trying to get adequate parking for this, any new proposals that are made down there. Because we also have to address some of the existing parking demand that's already there now. And I know you talked about some of that being made up by the diagonal parking on Main, Church, and Strong's. But I think that's still, that area needs to be worked a little bit.
Other comments, questions? I guess I haven't really said much on it at this particular point. I do like it from the standpoint that it's affordable housing, not Section 8, not low income. They seem to have that comments out there, and we all know there's some developments on the north side that, oh my God, that Section 8, we wouldn't want that downtown. It's not that type of a thing. I can see where the daycare can benefit the whole area. That we got people, it benefit people working for $15 an hour at Joe's Bar. That's what they could afford this, but nothing else. So that'd give them a place to go. But rather than another residential coming in, and I mentioned this to staff, I was thinking that if we could get one of the, I don't know, national chain or entrepreneur that would like to go in there and put a convenience store in there. It doesn't need to have gas pumps on it, but we do have convenience stores in the city that are doing fairly well right now, and without gas pumps. But that would help that whole particular area and bring more people downtown. There's not a lot of areas down there, rather than another residential, but that's just my thoughts. Other comments, questions, motions?
I have just one last comment. You know, this first project that we're getting here takes a good chunk of what we got available. And like John said, there's not going to be a lot left. So we need to get it right the first time. And if that takes extra time to do that, I'd be all for that, because I'm not sure we're going on the right path here with this one. But we need to get it right the first time. Hard to get a second chance. We were going to live with it for the next 40, 50 years.
Is there a question, Director? Is there a way to still negotiate with this developer and still give them the control or section to, they can apply for the grants and still bring back the final design to us? Or do you need approval or no approval?
I guess, Tyler, I don't know if you see something in your mind, you know, if we're not able to come to an agreement on the development agreement, if there's another way to proceed with the project, or, you know, again, I know we're kind of coming up on some deadlines, so any thoughts to that?
Yep, so the deadline is Friday, as mentioned. What is required to be submitted to the state on Friday is evidence of site control. We were going to achieve that through the development agreement. As part of that application, we submit a concept site plan, be the same one that's presented to you guys. We are not locked into that exact site plan. What that does lock us into is the unit count and the community service facility that's reserved for the daycare currently. So I say all that, and there's a little bit of massaging we can continue to do to, you know, appease folks, but we do have to have evidence that we have control of land and that the development we are proposing can move forward, you know, should we to allocate the funds we're requesting. You know, and the only other thing I will add to that you know, Jared, to your point, this development is located right now in a QCT, which makes it competitive, you know, hence Commonwealth not being the only applicant to the publicly issued RFP. There is no guarantee that next year this is in a qualified census tract. And if that goes away, then this would lose its competitive edge as well. So just throwing that out there.
All righty, thank you. Questions, motions? Or do we not have a motion and a second and we do not have a project?
Well, for the sake of, I'll make a motion to approve, just for the sake of making a motion for a vote.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the development agreement as presented. Is that the motion, Mary?
Yep.
Okay. I guess make the motion to approve the development agreement with the amendment to Exhibit F per.
Okay, I'll agree to
Gardner's,
that, to
okay.
approve with change to Appendix F.
Perfect, thank you.
Is there a discussion on the motion? All righty. Then we will vote on the motion. The director will take the roll.
Chairperson Schleiss.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Gardner.
No.
Alderperson Kneebone.
Aye.
Commissioner Cooper.
No.
Commissioner Kemeter.
Aye.
Commissioner Laddick.
No.
Commissioner Barrett.
Aye.
Looks like we have 4-3.
4-3. Motion carries. All righty, moving along. Approval of a dumpster and parking agreement with Point Housing LLC for the purpose of facilitating a downtown dumpster program. Director.
Yeah, of course. So this is I guess an amendment or a renewal of sorts with Point Housing. We already have an agreement with them. We are looking to update that agreement and renew it so that Point Housing can accurately adjust their upcoming contract for the 2026 and beyond seasons. So pretty much identical language in past contracts, so didn't see that there was too many issues with, I guess, going through it. However, I did have a highlighted section in your packets with some proposed changes. So in the memo, I do kind of outline those changes as well, but to kind of run through them, looking to reduce the number of violations required for removal of a participant from 3 to 2. 3, just a little bit excessive. You know, everyone's an adult in a business, and we should be able to ensure that they are following the simple rules to follow the program of not, you know, littering in the dumpster area, putting bulk items there, paying on time. I mean, just simple items. So 3 felt a little excessive for what was included there. So reducing that to 2. Addition of a removal for non-payment. Just ensuring, again, being responsible, we're paying on time. You know, this is a strong benefit to those businesses. It is reducing their cost for trash, eliminating the the requirement of them either having to fund it themselves, pay more, or bring it home with them, which is an inconvenience in itself, depending on how much trash you have and how you need to transport it home. The other item that we added was just kind of a checks and balances section, that any removal may be overturned by the executive director. That would, of course, be a conversation between the executive director, myself, and the chair, just what's going on, chair of the RDA, what's going on. Here's the situation, are we in agreement? Executive director makes the call. So that is the intent, putting it just to a single entity, more on staff to just evaluate those as needed. So kind of, again, a checks and balances. If there's for some reason, an unnecessary removal, it can be reversed. Besides those 3 changes, everything else is the same. Staff would recommend approval of those changes. We have gone over the changes with Point Housing, and they were in agreement as well. We do have representative from Point Housing if you all have any questions. I'm sure he would be happy to answer.
Mr. Chairman, move approval as amended.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? Director will take a roll.
Chairperson Slice?
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Gardner? Ahead of me. Alderperson Kneebone?
Aye.
Commissioner Cooper?
Aye.
Commissioner Kemeter?
Aye.
Commissioner Laddick?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrett?
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
This meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.